Fresh meat.
What's your favorite scary movie?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
This is my boomstick.
Swallow this.
Guys, back once again with the Air on the Head show. I got my co-host, the always amazing Mr. John Fallon. John, how you doing?
What's going on? I'm great, man. I'm fantastic, actually. It was nice to see you in Vegas to party with you and meet you in person for the first time.
Yeah. After all this time, we actually get to meet face to face.
Yeah, definitely. I must say, you did not disappoint. The man can handle his liquor. That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
Yes.
What are you doing in, by the way? What's on the menu today?
All right, so I have the rest of my banana blueberry made, and I should also say I actually made my other one last night, so I got another one fucking cooking. And just to be a little classy, because I thought I'd wear a little suit jacket, I got Cardew or Chardou. I don't know how to say it correctly. It's a single malt Scotch. It's really, really good.
Nice.
I'll send it to you for your little celebration after this is done.
Definitely. So. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
What about you, buddy?
I'm actually I'm going no hard liquor for a month. So I'm gonna go Guinness in a can again. It's not like Guinness on tap. No. But it's better than nothing.
All right. Well, then, today is, we decided, we didn't talk about this last time. Today is Stephen King.
Yes.
Yeah, so you and me
Stephen King. I mean, so many movies and TV series and TV movies adapted from his work. Of course, we're not going to cover all of his movies. That'd take like 5 episodes, maybe down the road. I don't know. I personally, I picked some of my favorites. You did the same, I assume, right?
I picked a purposely eclectic list. Because I'll be honest, if we were going to my favorites, we'd just be talking Shawshank and a few others. But I wanted to go for little weirder ones that I don't think people give a chance. So I'm open to dig into the ones that I think people ignore, which they shouldn't. And again, we should talk about this. You and me don't really discuss what we're doing outside of this. I think the element of surprise kind of works for us. Obviously,
it's a surprise,
I would have watched Shocker if I would have known. But that's good. It's an honest reaction. So I'll let you jump off because I don't know what you have. I just know that we don't have the same one. So John, what are we going to surprise me with?
Shocker.
Fucking Christ. I still haven't seen it.
You know, I always hated the expression guilty pleasure, because if I derive pleasure out of anything, why would I feel guilty? So a lot of people call this movie a guilty pleasure. I don't feel no guilt whatsoever, and that's Stephen King's sole director credit, Maximum Overdrive. You know the movie, right?
Oh yeah. His cocaine binge with Amelia Estevez.
That's it. His cocaine binge movie. By his own admission, Mr. King was high on coke the entire shoot, and it shows in a good way. For me, Maximum Overdrive, I've always said, dude, it's a movie about machines that kill people, like trucks or soda machines or lawnmowers. It's not remains of the day. So for what it is, I think it's fucking fantastic. Narrative structure that Mr. King has used a lot, a bunch of people trapped in one environment with like evil shit around. So he did it in The Mist, and he does it again in Maximum Overdrive. Maximum Overdrive, if you guys haven't seen it, a comet goes around the earth and all the machines come to life and start whacking peeps. And I think it's aliens, but who gives a shit? So many great scenes in that movie. The opening, the bridge, the cars, the pileup, the destruction, the King cameo where the bank machine tells him he's an asshole.
This machine just called me an asshole.
The soda machine attack on the baseball team.
The
Kids getting whacked, run over a fucking bulldozer. I mean, you don't see that shit today. Kid on a bike being chased on a lawnmower. It's just fucking bedlam, this fucking movie. It's you know what? It's funny because it has a soundtrack by AC/DC. And that's what the movie feels like to me. It's a heavy metal song put to screen with a fuckload of carnage. Yeah, the middle section, in my opinion, kind of lags. It's a little boring, but the AC/DC kept me going. You know, you don't watch these kind of movies for character studies. So, you know, Pat Ingle got on my fucking nerves. Her name, the girl that does Edley Smith
Lisa.
That does the voice of Lisa Simpson. Oh my God. She's with that pussy whipped husband, and she keeps busting his balls the whole movie. I wanted to take her and throw her out a fucking window. The horny Bible salesman guy. I don't know if you remember that shit.
Who's the actor?
Oh, come on, dude. No, his name's Mr. Nobody.
Oh, okay. All right.
The character himself was very annoying. Well, character-wise, it's not a really strong film, but the situation, the kills, the carnage, the music, the Green Goblin truck.
Yes.
It's very iconic, look. Actually, there's one scene where this waitress, and I don't know the actress's name, she kind of goes fucking crazy, and it echoes a bit the song by AC/DC, Who Made Who? She goes, we made you! She runs out of the diner, what the fuck? We made you! And then, we made you! The military truck kind of guns her down, I think. It's a fun, stupid, rock and roll, carnage heavy horror film with a great soundtrack, good kills, and actually, I'm sure some of our fellow horror fans out there know the initial cut was so gory that they toned it down big time. And of course, as per so many movies, the footage has been lost. We'll never see the uncut version. Massacre scene in the baseball with the kids, with the soda machine popping, and then the fucking
the steamroller runs the kid over.
Yeah, steamrollers. He gets fucking like the uncut version. I saw pictures of it. Fucking splatter of fucking heaven. So I love that movie. I've always loved that movie. It's a movie that stayed with me. So many iconic scenes. So I highly recommend it if you've never seen it. That's it. What do you think of the movie?
Well, let me ask you this though, because I know recently Emilio Estevez or King, I think it was Estevez, that came out and said like his biggest regret was Maximum Overdrive, and even King has come out and said like he regrets doing it. And what I guess I'm kind of curious about is that even if this was intended to be scary, which I don't think it was, or if it was, somehow it became the complete opposite. It's such a pulp fun movie. I don't get why King or Estevez can't sit back and be like, oh, it's stupid fun. It's because even I think King was quoted saying he wanted to make an idiot movie. He was saying something like that. He wanted to make an idiot, dumb, trashy, fun movie, and I think he did. So I don't really get why King or Estevez has any regrets. It's like, well, yeah, it's not a scary movie, but it's a fun movie, and as far as I'm concerned,
and not only that, it's a cult classic.
Yeah,
we're talking about it right now.
Fun movies.
Yeah? But who the fuck's talking about Men at Work starring Emilio Estevez?
It's a fun movie.
I hate it when people do that.
I'm the same way. I don't. Here's the thing. Once you make something and let it out in the world, it's not yours. And I always bring this up like with David Gilmour, his like The Wall. It's like, well, tough shit. The Wall's great. So, pony up, sweetheart. Like, it's not yours anymore. It's ours. The Beatles didn't like Let It Be. I feel like artists need to kind of step back and be like, okay, well, even if it's not the movie I wanted to make, once it's out there and it finds a crowd, then that's the movie it's meant to be. I know that Tommy Wiseau meant to make The Room a dramatic movie, but he fucked it up so bad. It's a comedy. But know what he did? He goes, oh, it's a comedy. And then I see him at every local theater playing football and signing autographs. He owns it. So I just wish King and Estevez would own this movie, really just kind of dumb fun. So it's like, I like this shit. I prefer this over sometimes some serious stuff, because as much as I like a good serious movie, I'll watch something like Maximum Overdrive a lot more.
If I got it right now, got to watch Shawshank Redemption or Maximum Overdrive, I'm going with the Trucks. Which, by the way, the movie was based on King's short story Trucks. And by the way, there was a TV movie based on the same story called Trucks, but I'm not going there. All that to say, I hate it. I personally hate it when artists look back and then, write off shit that they did. No, man, everything you do leads you to the next thing. It's part of your path, your growth, your evolution, if you will, as an artist. Don't spit on what you did before, because they led you to what you did next.
And always has an audience.
By John Fallon,
I agree. Even though I'll probably fight you on the Shawshank thing, but that's a different episode. So
Shawshank's depressing. Fuck that movie.
Can you be so obtuse?
It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece. I love the movie.
I'll
never watch it again.
Oh my God, I watch it like every year. I'm like, I need a good soulful reminder. All right, different episode.
Yeah. Okay, go.
It's probably the most mainstream one I got. And it's one that I didn't revisit a lot, so I revisited it recently, which is Christine, John Carpenter's 1983 flick. It's been a while.
Love that fucking movie, dude. Well, go.
It's something I didn't grow up with, and I want to bring this up because a lot of the stuff that I've watched, I had the blessing of watching since I was a little kid, because there was no parenting for the boomers. Let's be real clear on that for my generation. It was just, I rented what I wanted to and watched it. So I had good early education.
You're not a fucking boomer, man.
No,
You're
my parents were boomers. So.
Oh, okay.
So I'm saying they didn't give a shit. They were like, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, can I rent RoboCop? Like, yeah, go for it. I'm like, okay, yeah, RoboCop. I'm like 4, you know? But the reason I bring up Christine is because I didn't watch it as a kid because I thought it was a car movie. And I'll be honest, I don't give a shit about cars. I'm the kind of guy you give $1 million to, I'm going to buy a fucking Toyota and invest in like the market and buy a house so I have some property. I'm not a car guy. Though, this car is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I love the 50s, man. I love that style. It's set in the 80s, but because it's King, there's a lot of 50s influence because, you know, his childhood was the 50s. So a lot of things have that sort of like tie-in. And it's about this dorky kid who's is a loser, gets made fun of, and has the little tape between his glasses. He buys this old 50s car, is alive, and they kind of fall for each other, and the car basically protects him and murders people.
It's a love story.
Exactly. It's
between a man and his possessed car.
Sexual without physical sexuality.
Yeah, he's not fucking a muffler. Yeah.
No, but it has that sort of growth of like him falling in love, and he has this girl, and he refers to us, don't talk about my car that way. You know, it's this guy that never had a girl, finally has one. It's only a killer car. Gorgeous car, by the way. A couple of things I wrote down that I found kind of interesting after this recent rewatch. Very little blood. It's not, in fact, a bloody movie at all. I mean, I don't say bloodless per se, but it is not about the carnage. And I guess that's because Carpenter was coming off of The Thing, which was a very gory, sort of effects-driven movie. And he specifically was like, I don't want this to be a gore fest. So I kind of want to tone it down and make it more of like a story-driven, you know, movie about this kid's arc of going from a nerd to essentially the villain. And so I kind of find that the slow burn thing is interesting, especially for a movie like this that in a way should be schlocky, but it's taken dead serious. It's a slow build. Like I even timed it a little under the hour mark before the first kill. So we have almost the entire movie before anything actually happens. It's just a slow build. I think that's kind of cool. You know, I mean, especially a killer car movie, it's really not about a killer car. It's just about this poor dork. Robert Prowski, he's the old grandpa in Gremlins 2, plays the garage owner who's so grumpy. It's amazing. I love a good grumpy character, John. It's like my favorite thing in the world. That's why I love like Lou Reed and Van Morrison, because like these characters in real life, they just hate everything. And this guy's just sitting there.
They're like you, basically.
Yeah, I mean, but just good, as it should be. I find that archetype interesting, where it's just the main character comes in, he's trying to rent a space, and the guy's just such a dick. He's like,
you're on probation. You get it? You screw around with me one time, I don't care how much money you paid up in front, I'll throw you out in your ass. Not
to mention Home Alone's Old Man Marley. Now, I grew up in Home Alone because I'm that age, but he sells Keith Gordon the car, and even him.
Keith Gordon's awesome in the movie.
Yeah, he plays the nerd perfectly, but Old Man Marley, which is Robert's Blossom, it has this amazing line. I don't know if you remember it, but he was talking about Brother First bought the car. He's like,
I remember that.
She had the smell of a brand new car. That's just about the finest smell in the world. Except maybe for pussy.
Would say after this recent rewatch, one of Carpenter's most underrated scores. It's
big time.
Low key, a great little driving force here. I think my only complaint, actually, and this is something I watch on digital, so I don't know if it's on the physical release, but the score is mixed really shittily into the movie, meaning that the score is too low. It sits too low over the
Really? I never got that from watching it on my
Again,
end.
I don't have a physical release, but on digital, it's way too low under the sound effects and the movie ambience.
You know that scene, the geek guy gets, terrorized by a bunch of bullies, and there's a scene where the car boom, and I remember sound effects for some reason, where the lights boom, and the guy starts running away, and then the car starts following him, and then the score kicks in, dum dum dum. That whole scene, I was like, fuck. It's Stephen King and John Carpenter together, and it's fucking horror fucking genius. That for me, that's what Christine, you spoke a lot about it, so I'm not gonna eternalize, but the style of Christine. John Carpenter's eye, his ear for music, plus Stephen King's, content, the car, the visuals. What I retained from Christine is the aesthetics, the audio visual. Filmmaking is a audio visual medium. It's not about, if you want to watch people talk for half an hour, 2 hours, with static shots, then go see a play. But for me, when I go see a film, I want the film to stimulate me visually and audio-wise. to use its shots, to use the lighting, the score to evoke emotions within me. And Christine does that. Forget about it.
It looks like a Carpenter film, which I mean, as one of my favorite directors. I can't wait till we do that episode because I'm fully.
We're still going to do a John Carpenter episode,
but it has that look. I mean, really, I guess my only real complaints is that they don't use Harry Dean Stanton enough. I feel like he's wasted, but I mean, he's probably more of a favorite. I bet Carpenter's like, hey, Stanton, will you help me out in this movie real quick? And he like does a cameo. But no, the look and the vibe, everything. And again, it's a slow burn. This is a killer car movie. I'd expect this to be Maximum Overdrive, and it's the opposite. A lot more of a character study than it has any right being. And I think that's awesome.
It's more character driven, more layered than, well, obviously than Maximum Overdrive. That's for sure.
That's just about the finest smell in the world. Except maybe for pussy.
And I actually picked it because there's a remake or a new adaptation, my ass, because I saw the trailer and it looks exactly like the original. Firestarter. Firestarter, starring, Drew Barrymore, David Keith, George C. Scott, Martin Sheen. Of course, about this young girl played by Drew Barrymore who has psychic powers. She's able to light fires and shit. Who's being hunted down by like a government agency. Look, fireballs. I could end right there, fireballs. I'll always remember with that movie, the last act, where her name's Charlie, comes out with the Tangerine Dream score. Tangerine Dream did the score for Near Dark, by the way, as well. Genius score on both films. Comes out, then the wind starts coming. Her hair starts waving. And then she's throwing fucking fireballs at mofos. And it's an iconic, stylized, and just beautiful to watch. And, keep in mind, the original Firestarter was done before CGI, before VFX. So fireballs, they're fireballs, and it carry a lot of impact. The core of the film, for me anyways, is the heart of the film, if you will, is the relationship between the father and the daughter, which is played by David Keith. I had to look at my notes because fuse him with Keith David from They Live. They have the same name but reverse. David Keith, great actor, and Drew Barrymore. So that's the heart of the film. Of course, you have George C. Scott as a Native American. I didn't really buy him as Native American, but nice eye patch. Chewing the scenery like a champ. You got Martin Sheen, chewing the scenery like a champ. So it's directed by Mark L. Lester, who directed Commando. So the man knows a thing or two about action scenes. And I find the action sequences in the picture are well done. It's not a great film, but it's a solid film. And, I watched the trailer for the remake. I'm just going to rewatch the original. I was like, I got nothing. It looks like a pale copy of the original. And not once in that trailer did I see a fireball. It impressed me as much as the fireballs in the OG. So Firestarter is definitely worth a watch. Not great, but pretty good, in my opinion. Have you seen it, by the way?
It's been a long time, actually. So here's the thing. My initial memory of it was underwhelming. I do remember George C. Scott because he had a scar and he had the dead eye and he had the ponytail, which just looked so weird,
So wait, he didn't have an eye patch?
Maybe later in the movie, but I just remember he had like this blue damaged eye. He might have at one point. I mean, it's been a while. My thing with Firestarter is that I always remember it being kind of boring. And again, I should revisit it. I'll be honest. This is going off of at least a couple years ago, at minimum, probably more like 5 or 10. But I just remember a lot of it had like flashbacks, which I thought was a little awkward.
I thought they were well done, the flashbacks, actually.
I just thought the pacing was weird. I don't want to truly shit on a movie that I haven't seen in a long time, but this could be one of those that I just got bored when I saw it and I deserves a rewatch. With the amount of King films out there, it's just sometimes tough to get back. Going off of my basic memory, George C. Scott, remember I liking a lot. Heather Locklear is kind of weird. She's like the hot mom that dies. Spoilers. In fact, the one thing I remember is that like they're getting away, but they keep walking on like main streets and highways. And I'm like, go somewhere else. That's where people drive. It's like me. It's like I'm gonna hide from the cops in Lakeshore Drive or not, or go in. So, it's being remade and it already seems like the remake is being kind of slowly shuffled out. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those like Texas Chainsaw 2022 things where they just kind of drop it. I could be wrong, but that trailer seemed a little cheap to me. The new one
it did nothing. It did nothing for. It looked like
cheap.
Marketing wise, they're playing a new adaptation of the Stephen. No, man.
How accurate is the old one from the story, though? Because I don't know that either.
I never read the books. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe I'll give it a watch if you think it's worth revisiting. I do like George C. Scott. I love Exorcist 3. So maybe it's worth it to see that again. This is just one of those ones that kind of like I saw a couple times and then I just never kind of went back to. That being said, I have revisited things and giving things a second chance in my life that I ended up loving or that were slower when I was younger that I found more of a heartbeat later on. So this could be one of them.
It's a 7 on 10 for me, to be honest.
That's pretty good. That's
7
actually
on 10.
pretty damn good.
And actually, one cool thing about, I don't know, because, you know, the thing is, you know, we're getting older. I don't know if this has happened to you or not, but movies I would watch in the 90s, which I found average at the time, I rewatched today and they're much better. Why? It's before, and like heavy VFX, and it's a style of filmmaking that I personally connect to because I grew up on it. You know, movies from the 80s and 90s is what I grew up on. And today's style of filmmaking is much different, and I don't connect to it as much. The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal and Keenan Ivory Wayne.
Yeah.
Which I saw on the big screen, which I thought was whatever. I rewatched it fairly recently. Masterpiece. I had the time of my life.
All right, well, so maybe you're able to have fun with it now. Maybe that's it, you know?
No, but just like I said, the style of filmmaking and I don't know, the vibe. It's nostalgia, I guess. Nostalgia makes things that were average look better. I don't know, endearing.
I love it.
I don't know how we got here.
The Glimmer Man is your example. It's like, yeah, because that's what we grew up in. That's what I love. And I'll always love that shit. And maybe there's a flaw to it, but then in 30 years, the crap now will have flaws. So I rather take my mid-level movies that like could get made with interesting stories over this like weird boardroom making of movies now. Lethal Weapon would not exist today. So as much as I'm not saying there's not good movies today. There is Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Hereditary. There's some good shit, but I'll take my stuff.
Yeah, I got money down. You're gonna watch Firestarter, the OG, and you're gonna appreciate it way more.
That brings me to my entry, which I'm gonna go a little more obscure. Get my notes here. Actually, let me get the old glasses going.
Go for it, Grandpa.
Sleepwalkers. Mick Garris's Sleepwalkers. One of my go-to King adaptations. Not adaptations because it's an original story.
It was an original screenplay by King, yeah.
But it's such a wild and weird movie. So basically, I'm sure some people haven't seen it. And if you have and don't like it, you're wrong. So stick with me here. Sleepwalkers is essentially these like weird ancient cat beings that sort of live throughout history, and they basically live on the souls of virgins. And the movie takes place in the 90s, and it's these two characters, a mom and a son, kind of. I mean, they're mom and son in
have a bit of an incestuous relationship.
So the entire movie is about this mom and son that fuck, but need to feed on the souls of virgins, and they got to kind of like trap a virgin and convince a virgin to come over. I think it's virgin women actually, because the son has to go and like charm these like pretty girls, and then they basically turn to cat people and then suck their souls. It's so weird, but I love it so much. In fact, just to make sure that we're on the same page, I own it on Blu-ray, so that's
nice.
Me. Yes,
that's a Screen Factory edition, right?
Yes, yeah, great.
Mick Garris directed that one as well.
I've always liked Mick Garris. He gave me probably one of my favorite movies ever, which is Critters 2. Critters 2, Psycho 4. He did some Freddy's Nightmares. The Stand. I mean, that alone, you got me. Quicksilver Highway. He did the Shining miniseries, which I'll fucking fight anybody
Fighting
for.
the Bullet. I was really impressed by that one.
Yeah, I was going to put it on my list today, but I figured that's kind of a sad one, so I was going to stick to something funny. David Arquette. Alice Krieg steals his entire movie. Essentially, she plays the mother. And again, it is a very incestuous, kind of sensual movie. It's a sexual movie. Kind of plays it straight, like let's say like a Firestarter.
The first two acts it plays.
Yes.
Then the last act goes bonkers.
It goes into it becomes aliens. It's Alice Krieg becomes the Terminator. She's blowing the cars with the gun. She's like throwing
Corn on the cob, remember?
You know, there's a couple of kills I wrote down that are my favorite. Ron Perlman, he plays like he's a young tough cop. He gets his fingers chewed off, and then like you mentioned, one of the best parts of the movie is Alice Krige takes a corn on the cob and stabs one of the cops in the back. And the third act goes bonkers. There's a scene, I don't know if you remember, it's one of my favorites, where shit's going wild. Cops invade the house and the cats are attacking Alice Krige. She's fighting for her life. And the cop shoots her with a shotgun and it goes through her and it just blows the cat off. This is the most cameoed horror movie of all time. Stephen King, Clive Barker,
Tobe
Hooper. You have Joe Dante, John Landis.
Yep.
I mean, all in this movie. Mädchen Amick, who of course is Shelley from Twin Peaks. Which, real quick, let's just go into this. Not only is she amazing in Twin Peaks, but one of the best scenes in the entire entity of the series is in The Return, when Ed and Norma get together finally, and it plays Otis Redding in the background, and it cuts to Shelley, and she's holding the coffee, and she's breaking down. No, babe, I'm down on my knees. Masterpiece of a scene. But she's just such a beautiful girl in this, and she's like so innocent, and she plays it so well, and she becomes the heroine. She becomes like a tough badass. And it's a schlocky, dumb movie, but Mick Garris plays it straight, and then he plays it actiony. Nobody seems to like it because the score is pretty low on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. But you know what? People are wrong. Have some fun. Simple as that.
I enjoy Sleepwalkers. I always remember the opening with the Enya song. Yes, that was an Enya song in the opening.
Yeah, the score, it has an Enya score that keeps coming back in. It's that,
My problem with Sleepwalkers, the first two acts, the setup and the beings and everything, as you said before, was tackled fairly seriously. Brian Krause, like luring the girl, and it had me by the balls. And then the last act, it's either you're gonna go with it or you won't. Goes completely batshit fucking crazy. It's almost, what's with the faces, man?
Good. It should. It plays it safe.
Shit out of you, my bare
but it
ass.
does all fucking crazy.
Don't watch Shocker, motherfucker.
Well, Shocker doesn't Shocker crazy at the end too.
Shocker actually has the same problem. It starts off straight, and by the time Oris Pinker dies and comes back, then it's Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
I like a crazy third act. I think it's always a fun little switch. I don't know. Whatever.
Look, I enjoy the film. I appreciate the film. I thought Mick Garris did a fantastic job directing it. Great acting. Most of it is set in daylight, which is always ballsy for a horror film.
Very bright.
That. The actors are great, but the last act, I always had trouble digesting it because it was going one way and then it just fucking took a quick right and went the other way, totally batshit crazy. And it was always harder for me to digest that. But overall, I'll take Sleepwalkers over half the shit that's coming out today. So you know what? No, I do recommend it. It's at least it has balls. It goes into directions that most movies today would not. Like even the incestuous relationship between
it gets real weird.
Cat mother and the cat son. It's pretty out there, man. So good pick, bro.
One more thing before I forget. I always thought that the cat people look super cheesy, like more cheesy than they should have. And then I was listening to the commentary track, or maybe I read an article, I can't forget which, I did both. But they were saying that essentially the effects artist who did the cat people suit when they become the cat beings had to rush it. And that essentially he finished it and then it became the look for what the aliens looked like in the Tommyknockers. The Tommyknockers are what...
Actually, you know what? I could see that.
Yeah, are kind of like the upgraded version with the Kiss Cat people. It looks like a weird suit. It's stupid, but
I actually kind of like the design and the effects. I know I did. I like the design and the effects.
Fair enough. I'd take it over CGI because at least I could see it. It reflects the light and it has a presence. But yeah, man, weird cat people sucking virgin souls and a mother and son having sex.
Can't go wrong.
Hey, it ain't boring. It ain't boring.
Exactly. It's not. Pet Sematary, OG, Mary Lambert.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Which is probably one of my favorite King adaptations. I know you hate the fucking thing. It's probably one of my favorite King adaptations. Pet Sematary, for a very long time, George Romero was actually attached for a long time to direct it, was considered an unfilmable adaptation due to the content. I read the book. Wow. Just ripped me apart, man. Such a tough book, just emotionally stirring and heartbreaking and macabre and out of line, especially when you start, involving children, in murder and stuff like that. Romero, it didn't happen. If I remember correctly, I think he had a disagreement with the producers. And then finally, Mary Lambert who was a music video director. She did Like a Prayer by Madonna. She got on board. King wrote the script. It pretty much hit broad strokes, pretty much every plot thread that the book had, from Zelda, the sister, the flashbacks and stuff like that. The film itself, for me, it addresses themes that are universal. So, love, family, and more importantly, grief, and what we're all gonna meet someday, death. The grief part, not being able to cope with it and being given this opportunity to not have to cope with it and bring back your loved ones. Because in case you guys don't know, it's about family moves to, house in Maine, and there's a pet cemetery nearby. And if you bury something that dies within it, if you guys don't know this, shame on you. It comes back to life, but not normal. And it comes back to life possessed or warped or twisted, or my ex-girlfriend, whichever you want to fucking call it. Actually, one scene that for me kind of like influenced me in my own creative endeavors is the scene where Gage, if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler, so mute it. Gage, the little boy, gets run over by the Mack truck. Bang! Then cut to little shoot. Then cut to Del Midkiff, who plays the dad. No! Then cut to, this is a fucking genius of that fucking scene. Cut to, flash. It just flashes pictures of that kid and then cuts back to that little fucking shoe. I thought editing-wise, using visuals to evoke emotion, pure freaking genius. It was genius. I actually rewatched the scene, just that scene alone, yesterday. I was like, man, that's how you do it. The movie's creepy, has a great score, moves at a good pace, has some really off-putting violence, a little scalpel, the ankle, I'll just leave it at that. Great performance by Fred Gwynne. My only complaint, I'm not sure if it's the dialogue or the acting, so the written page or the acting or both, but randomly, it's a little off, especially when it comes to the mom and the dad. The kids are great. Actually, the young girl, her name is, I wrote it down here, Ellie Creed, yeah. Yeah, Ellie Creed, who's played by two twin actresses. And she's whining a lot, the character whines a lot, but it's realistic. I buy her. A Gage, I buy him. Fred Gwynne, I buy him. But Del Midkiff and the wife, whom I forgot the name of the actress, she was on Star Trek at some point. I don't know. Sometimes I didn't buy it. But other than that, I think it's a really strong film, and it always hits me right here. Now, tell me why you hate it, Lance. Mr. I did not see Shocker yet. Oh, shit. Dude, go ahead, Grandpa.
I'm gonna extend an olive branch here. And what I'm about to say is unpopular, and I understand that. I don't claim to be a King expert. I'm an expert in nothing except sleep. I read the book too. I read it in high school, and I read it in the pandemic. It's an amazing book, very slow burn. I sometimes think King is best in miniseries form, especially if we kind of adapt him today, because the 90s miniseries, as great as they were limited by people not believing the material, and of course the MPAA or whatever the version that on TV that is. I realized that this book takes forever. It's a great book, but it's not a book with a lot of action. It literally is a chunk of it's just the father and the daughter and the mother, and it's just the relationship. It's just building this family. And so I do appreciate a few things that Mary Lambert did. Fred Gwynne as Judd Crandall is amazing. Of course, Herman Munster. I always kind of think of him as the judge from My Cousin Benny. At least according to the page in the book, I feel like the most authentic version. That's kind of what we got out here. That sort of like hard Maine accent.
There's all the time crossing back and forth on that road. It's luck will run out.
Guess I'll never be lucky. Hell, I ain't married anyone.
He's iconic. South Park uses him. And so here's what I'm going to say. I get why people love this movie. I'm not stupid. I get it. And I would never discount people's love for it, because I feel that I understand why it connects to people. That being said, I think it's so fucking boring. It bothers me. I think, no offense, Dale Midkiff is on Xanax or Ambien or whatever he's on. God bless him. Give me some.
Honey, church will be fine. I can take a look at that for you.
I thought you might have. I know you don't approve of the subject.
John, I buried my son today. If something good doesn't come from Gage's death, I think.
Why I hate it is why people love it. It's because they connected. I was like, I fucking hate everybody here. I'm so goddamn bored. Except for Judd. I was all about
Gage.
Judd.
You gotta love Gage,
No.
Love Gage.
No, I have no parental love. I like I have 4 sugar gliders and I love small dogs. I couldn't give a shit about that kid. I would have like stuffed him myself. You know what he gives him a shot, he cries. I'm like, nah, I shoot him twice. I would give him 2 shots. I just think this is a good example of the material being very dramatic and it not translating well to screen. I think it was just the wrong time and the wrong actors. It was a little too
and
literal.
the remake was the right time and the right actors?
The remake had a lot of flaws, but I do believe the remake hit the tone better. I really absolutely do. I do. I don't know. The remake has a lot of flaws. The fact that Ellie is clean after her accident annoys me. I don't like that they changed.
The fact they gender swap.
Well, I think they did that because it's easier to kill a 12-year-old than a little child, and I think that's a really weak move. I agree. Yeah. But the very end of that movie is them killing the fucking kid. Again, my big thing is I think Dale Midkiff and Denise Crosby are miscast. Simple as that.
And I feel you on that. Like I said before, yeah. I'm never sure when I watch it, and not the whole way. I ain't buying it as much as I should, and I'm not sure if it's the dialogue or the acting of both from Dale Midkiff and Denise Crosby. You think it's the acting, right?
Well, I mean, I always say this, unless it's truly bad dialogue, like truly bad. I mean, the actors usually can elevate it, and the dialogue isn't bad. It's a little, plain, but I almost think the right actors, maybe a little bit of cadence would do a little better. I just always thought this was such a boring.
Well, I didn't find it boring.
No, I know.
From beginning to end.
I am the only person, trust me, with the comments. This is before. So when we push this and it goes live, I'll be eating alive.
Where the fuck you get off talking to people about me behind my back going over my head?
What people?
What people would you think I wasn't going to find out?
That brings me to what we've been talking about. I'm going to be that guy, John. In fact,
again, the spectacles.
I got a whole list. Now, I know this isn't technically a Stephen King movie because it's more a derivative of his original. So Pet Sematary II, which is what I'm going to argue right now. Stephen King's movie Pet Sematary has a sequel, and this has all the themes and the ideas from the first, which he did right. So I think it is a valiant argument here. Okay, so if people haven't seen it, it's basically about Edward Furlong and his dad from ER, Anthony Edwards, moving to Ludlow, Maine after their mom dies in a movie set accident and essentially gets kind of like caught up in the myth and the lore of the town. And they bury obviously the dead past the Pet Cemetery in the Indian burial ground or Native American burial ground. And then they come back and then kind of shit gets wild. So there's a couple things I want to get out of the way real quick. Clancy fucking Brown. I love Clancy Brown.
He's the movie, dude.
The Kurgan, he is Captain Hadley.
I have something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Beside Mert, this fucker's having himself an accident.
He is essentially the antagonist. Gus is Drew's stepdad. He's abusive. Yeah. He's like this macho guy, and he ends up getting killed. And Drew freaks out because his mom obviously loves this guy, even though he's a piece of shit. And they bury him beyond the Pet Cemetery under the Indian burial ground. He comes back and he's just weird. From that point, the movie becomes a little rock and roll. And I think
you think
that's why I think Pet Cemetery does better for me, is because Mary Lambert is able to use her music video directing, and she does a lot of stylistic things in this that I like. It has a 90s sort of, not only is it a 90s soundtrack, but a 90s directing style. It's very lucid. It has a lot of weird dream sequences. There's a part where Anthony Edwards,
the dog head and the rocking chair with boobies.
Yeah, in a great tit shot. I mean, at least in terms of being in great shape. Like, let's just step back, and for me being a guy, like, great shape, just a healthy woman, but it's weird. There's a lot.
You're being so polite.
Led by the fact that Clancy Brown has that 80s killer vibe. He has a lot of one-liners, witty dialogues. There's a scene where he laughs at the dinner table, and and Edward Furlong's laughing, and he's kind of being this.
Everybody's laughing. Yeah. Yeah.
He stops. Yeah, he fucks with people. He fucks them. There's the bully in this is the kid from Big. I think to me is a great example of what this movie is in terms of tone, where the kid is a big bully, he's a big prick. He's trying to like kind of scare Edward Furlong into hurting his kitten because he likes kittens. And we've been over how I feel about cats because I'm allergic. But he flips over his bicycle and he's talking over it for long. And he's like, I'm going to cut your nose off with the bicycle. And then Gus comes in and kicks them all out. And then he takes his motorbike and he's screwing with him. He's laughing and his scarf gets caught and just crunches his entire face. And blood splats against Gus. And he goes, yeah. There's black humor, but it's mixed with, I think, a great amount of darkness. It's not the loss of a child, which I definitely understand why people would feel that way. But I like that this is almost the reverse, where it's this guy missing his mom, but then there's this crazy murderer, almost like a late Freddy Krueger, murdering people, burying people, bringing them back. He's like cool, but he's kind of scary. And I think something that got me as a kid, Gus, and spoilers, murders his stepson, and his wife. And as a kid, I remember thinking like, oh, they're not safe. There's a part where the kid, Drew, has a gun. He's going to shoot Gus, and he drops the bullets. He goes, you forgot something, Drew boy. And it's his hammy New England, Maine accent. So that is my argument. So boom, there we go. I said it.
I'm going to disagree with you.
I'm sure you are. Yeah.
But not in the way that you think. Number one, it's not a better sequel than the original. It's a different one. Tonally, it's completely different. The first one went for heavy, dramatic, played it straight. It's not about laughs. Mary Lambert, who comes from a music video background, held back. Okay, so just the shot compositions and everything. It's the first one is directed like a mature, serious film. The second one went complete polar opposite. The second one's batshit crazy. You said a little bit rock and roll. I disagree. Full on rock and roll. The second one, she's fully embraced her music video roots, and it literally is directed like a music video. She takes the situation, the rules, the structure, if somebody dies and comes back to life from the first one, but now plays it fucking out there. Clancy Brown. I think everybody in that movie dies and comes back. The bully comes back. Everybody dies and comes back in that movie for the most part. It's a rock and roll, gory as fuck. It's super violent. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to the first one, which was not that violent. Even the visuals, like that scene we talked about, the chick with the big tits and the dog head or whatever the fuck it was.
It's so bizarre, yeah.
And with the 90s slow motion, while she's rocking in a chair, it looks like it's straight out of a music video. Black hole sun, won't you come? It took me a couple of viewings to get it, appreciate and fully embrace that, no, this is not like the first one, this own animal. But once I have, after like viewing number 3 or something, I really love this movie. I think it's so much fun. It's completely fucking bonkers and up there. It does what a sequel is supposed to do. It's like Alien and Aliens.
Yes.
Alien is, suspense driven and slow build, and Alien's an action film.
Yeah, Terminator 2. Yeah.
Over and over again. Yeah. And I think it's a great horror party movie. It's a great movie to watch with a bunch of friends. Get fucked up, whatever your poison is. I can't condone anything on camera. Get fucked up and have a great time. So kudos, man, because I love that movie too. Oh man. All right, so how about we do our I'm out of beer. We do our recommendation, I guess. So since we're talking King, how about we find something obscure, more obscure, I guess.
I'm gonna let you go first, buddy. What do you got?
Actually, Mick Garris again. Desperation.
Ah, yes. Speaking of from Sleepwalkers, Ron Perlman.
Yes, Ron Perlman plays. It's about a bunch of people who went up in a town. They get arrested by a crazy fucking cop, played by the great Ron Perlman. It's actually one of these stories I don't want to say too much because I don't know if many people have seen it. And then shit goes crazy. And I'll just hint at demonic possession. But I'd read the book first and loved the book. Maybe because I was literally in Maine when I read the book. I was on vacation in Maine in a hammock, reading that book and just taking it in. And I was by the ocean. And maybe my setting inspired my love for the book. But I really love the book. It's very gory, very engaging, fast-paced. And then when I heard that Mr. Garris was doing, it was a miniseries.
Yes, 2000s, if I'm correct.
And adaptation, I was like, cool, that's cool. And the book is very gory. The miniseries not as much, but it hints and implies enough and shows enough to make it feel like it's more gory than it really is, in my useless opinion, of course. But I really like that adaptation. It didn't get the love that, you know, Langoliers got, or the Tommyknockers, or even The Stand, which is probably Mick Garris's crowning achievement in terms of King adaptation.
Better than the new one, that's for sure.
So in short, I don't want to say too much because it's a movie filled with surprises. If you have not seen Desperation by Mick Garris, adapted from Stephen King's excellent novel, give it a whirl. What about you? What do you got? What do you got?
I'm going for another Stephen King adaptation. I think this is from 1999, I believe. It's probably the best 90s King miniseries, and that's I know it's saying a lot. But I feel like it's hard to find and hard to watch, so I kind of want to recommend it. It's called Storm of the Century. Storm of the Century, now it's not based on a previous novel or short story. It was made for the screen, kind of like Sleepwalkers. I have the DVD, actually, and the DVD is so long you have to flip it. It's one of those DVDs. It's
one of those.
And it's about these New England seaside town people kind of trying to figure out what he wants and what to give to him. And, you know, like in true Stephen King fashion, what that is more than they're willing to give. It kind of reminds me a little of, I don't know if you've seen it, it's by Mike Flanagan. He did it recently called Midnight Mass, which kind of has a very strong...
No, everybody's telling me I gotta watch that shit.
It is a masterpiece.
Really? How long is it?
7 episodes, so 7 hours. But either way, Storm of the Century is a low-key thriller horror flick that is 4 episodes if you can find it. It's one of the best things Stephen King has made, and I would love a readaptation, maybe a hard R, maybe like Flanagan can do it, or you know, somebody who's a little bit more King oriented. But for the 90s, it's one of my favorites, and I hope it gets released in Blu-ray. So
before we go into we close it off, I just want to say shame on us, Night Flyer. I'll leave it at that.